Not to speculate as to the reason for any delay. We continue this afternoon with the examination of the defendant. Ms. Hoerig, if you return to the stand, you remain under oath. And Mr. Becker, you may cross-examine.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to ask you questions that are going to require nothing more than a yes, no, or I don't know, or I don't remember answer. Yesterday, well, let's go back. You got to tell your side of the story when you came back here last January to this detective and Officer Bill Bolden, correct?
Yes.
And you left the United States on March 12th, 2007 and didn't return until January 17th of 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's, by my calculation, that's 3,964 days, 10 years, 10 months, and 5 days you were gone. Roughly, almost 11 years you were gone, correct?
Yes.
During that time you were gone, you got to see your family, correct? Yes?
No.
You never saw your family when you were gone?
Briefly.
Well, I thought you told this jury yesterday you had a conversation with your father and he told you he loved you and you were in such tears yesterday because of those words. You never saw him again after that?
Only one more time after that.
What about your sister with lupus?
No.
Never saw her?
I saw her only that month, then I didn't see her anymore after that.
You got married, you saw your husband for 11 years, correct?
Yes.
All right. You got married, right?
Yes.
You built a house, right?
No.
You did, I thought you built a house.
No, I built a shack.
Okay, then you built a house.
No, I have no house.
So you lived in that shack the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. You worked somewhere?
Yes.
All right. You lived your life with your husband for almost 11 years in Brazil, correct?
No.
Close to 11 years.
I didn't live my life.
You didn't live your life?
No.
You didn't have a marriage? You didn't have
No. I had a nightmare.
Okay. You got to celebrate holidays, Christmases and birthdays?
Never.
You didn't do any of that?
No.
Okay.
I worked 365 days a year.
Okay. And you got to tell this story to this jury by getting on that witness stand yesterday, correct?
Yes.
All right. And we got over 3 hours of your story yesterday, correct?
I wasn't watching the clock.
All right. And the vast majority of your testimony yesterday was just basically telling us how bad Carl Hoerig was, correct?
Not exactly. I was telling things
Right.
good and bad, and I was telling the whole story.
Right.
There were good and bad sides.
These are only yes or no questions. I'm not trying to trick you. Now, by murdering Carl Hoerig, you have made it impossible for Carl Hoerig to tell his side of the story to this jury, correct?
Objection. Sustained.
Can we approach? Because of actions you took on March 12, 2007, you would agree that Carl Hoerig cannot come in this courtroom and tell his version of events, correct?
Neither can my 3 children that he killed.
I'm asking you whether Carl Hoerig, please try and listen to the question. Can Carl Hoerig come in and tell his side of the story? It's an easy question, yes or no?
Yes, he can.
He can?
Yes.
Where's he going to come from?
If you tell the truth to this court, he can, because I have a recording of every day of my life for 2 years, and this court knows, and Dennis Watkins knows, and you know that my whole life was recorded with voice recording, and it's not in here, was not brought in as evidence. Why are you lying to this court, to this juror, and to Brazil, and to me, to my face?
Right.
Could you bring my computer here and play the whole tape for these people to hear the whole truth?
You have 2 lawyers that are appointed for you to do
I don't know what they did. I know what you did.
All right. And let's go this route. You'd agree that Carl Hoerig can't come in here and sit on that witness stand and tell his side of the story, correct?
His voice came.
He can answer questions?
No.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So, you claimed that after you shot Carl Hoerig, you were going to kill yourself in that house, but you called your parents, correct?
Yes.
All right. You didn't extend, you said you didn't want them to worry about how you died, correct?
No, I didn't say that.
You said you didn't want them to find out in the newspaper.
Correct.
All right. You didn't extend that same courtesy, though, to Carl Hoerig, did you?
Objection. Overruled.
You didn't allow Carl Hoerig to call his parents before you shot him.
Please, go on with your question.
Do you have an answer to that question?
This is an absurd question.
Do you have an answer to that question?
Can you repeat because
Did you give Carl Hoerig the courtesy to call his parents before you shot him 3 times?
No.
All right. Now, when you married Carl Hoerig, you were a 42-year-old woman, correct?
No.
How old were you?
40.
You were 40. You had a college degree.
Yes.
You had attended college in the United States. I believe you told and even spelled it for the court reporter, Hofstra, correct? You had been living in New York or in the United States for approximately 18 years, 16 years?
Something like that.
All right. You were married, correct?
I was married before.
And you were divorced after 10 years.
Yes.
You had worked for an accounting firm in New York, correct?
A few.
You were single for 7 years after your divorce, is that correct?
I believe 5.
5 years. You lived on your own.
Yes.
You weren't helpless, correct?
No.
And you were functioning as an adult. You had bought a condo yourself. You went to work. You could do all the things an adult in this country can do, correct?
Yes, I've always been very dedicated to my profession.
All right. And you then moved in eventually with Carl Hoerig, and you guys lived at 64 West 9th Street in Newton Falls, correct?
Correct.
And that's in Trumbull County, Ohio, correct?
Correct.
All right. And that was the house that this jury saw last Wednesday, and you went out with us to go see that, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, you're not a psychologist, correct?
No.
You're not a psychiatrist.
No.
You're not a medical doctor.
No.
You're not a forensic pathologist.
No.
You were an accountant.
Yes.
And as an accountant, are you aware that there is a rule that anytime there is a $10,000 or more transaction by a financial institution, it needs to be reported to the Internal Revenue Service?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. You may be approached.
You were aware that financial institutions are required to report to the Internal Revenue Service transactions involving more than $10,000, correct?
No.
You didn't know that as an accountant?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go down a different avenue here. Before you shot Carl Hoerig, you were upset that he had an engagement party for you at Put-in-Bay, correct?
I thought that was very weird. That was a sign that something
Yes or no? I'm not asking for an explanation. All I want to know is yes or no. Before you shot him, you were upset that he had an engagement party for you at Put-in-Bay.
No, it has no connection with that.
That
I
is
think
not-
you're confused.
You were not upset with him about that?
No.
Okay. Before you shot him, you were upset that you married him after only 50 days of dating? No,
I wasn't mad about that.
You weren't mad about that. Before you shot him, were you upset that he trapped you or tricked you into marrying him?
No, I take blame for stuff.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset that he didn't move to New York like he said he was going to?
No.
Before you shot him, were you upset that you had to leave that New York accounting firm?
No.
Before you shot him, were you upset that you had to move from New York to Newton Falls?
No.
Before you shot him, were you upset that you had to pay for everything except for the mortgage and the electric bill?
I was a little upset. I mean, but it wasn't before.
Yes or no? I'm
No.
only asking yes or no.
No.
No, you were not
The answer is
upset.
no. No.
Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset that right after you got married, he'd went away for training for a few months?
No.
Before you shot him, were you upset that his son moved in with you?
I don't know. I don't understand the question. I'm going to answer no to what's your. I not understand the question.
We're getting to the.
You were asking me
Can
if
you
I was.
answer the questions and not argue with me, please?
I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset that you had these miscarriages with him?
I don't think I'm understanding the question.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset that you had these miscarriages?
I'm not understanding your question.
Okay. Let's
When
move on.
before when? 5 minutes one day? I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. Were you mad before you shot Carl Hoerig that you had miscarriages?
What do you mean by before? 5
Before
minutes?
you shot him.
A year, or have I ever been? I'm not understanding what you mean by before.
Any point in time before you shot him on March 12, 2007, were you upset or mad at Carl Hoerig for the miscarriages?
I'm a very forgiving person, and I was upset at one time, but not the next minute. I don't bring problems from one day to the next.
Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset that he threw away that one fetus that you had and threw it away?
I was upset at that day, yes, at the time.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset that he made you train and run in the woods while you were pregnant?
I was upset at that day, yes.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset that he looked at those pornographic websites?
Well, that was his problem.
Before you shot him, were you upset that he picked out the clothes you wore?
I didn't realize at the time that
Yes or
I was
no?
being-
All I want to know is yes or no. These are simple questions.
I didn't like that very much.
And before you shot him, were you upset that he made you wear only open-toed high heels?
I didn't like that.
Okay. Before you shot him, were you upset he made you walk around the house naked in high heels at night?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
All right. Before you shot him, were you upset he had some weird sexual fetishes, according to you?
I didn't like that.
Okay. And you agree, at this point, that Carl Hoerig cannot come in here and explain any of these situations that you testified to, correct?
Yes, he can through the voice
No,
recordings.
no, he can't. He can get on this witness stand.
Is he
Stay.
testifying?
Don't testify, Mr. Whitaker. Go ahead.
Well, can Carl Hoerig come in this courtroom and testify?
No.
Okay, thank you. Can Carl Hoerig come in this courtroom and dispute or admit or deny anything you've said to this detective or to this court yesterday?
No.
All right. Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset about him talking to you about his ex-girlfriends and his wife?
No.
Okay. Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset that you two were having marital problems?
No.
Before you shot Carl Hoerig, we saw one of the defense exhibits, I believe, was a bunch of books. Remember those books? They're self-help books? You remember
I never
seeing?
noticed those books.
You saw those books in your house.
Never saw those books in my house.
Oh, you never saw those books, but yet we had testimony a couple days ago with Detective Pizzullo that those books were on your shelf, so you never...
Yeah, I believe they were in my house, but I never paid attention to them. They were
Okay.
Carl's books.
Okay, so you never read them.
No.
Okay. Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset that he didn't want to have a baby?
Yes.
Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset about his comment about stretch marks?
His comments about stretch mark was not that day.
Well, were you upset about it? I didn't ask you what day it was. Were you upset about it?
That was not in my brain at that time.
Before you shot Carl Hoerig, were you upset because you had clothes, jewelry, and other items in the basement?
No.
Okay. So we heard all kinds of testimony yesterday, and you told this detective all kinds of terrible things about Carl Hoerig that really don't have any bearing on you shooting him, correct?
No, it was strictly about the pregnancy.
Okay. But all the other bad things were just to badmouth Carl Hoerig, who can't come into this courtroom and sit where you're sitting at.
Take one question at a time.
Okay.
No, that had an impact on my mental health, and I didn't realize.
Okay, so those things were in your mind then, correct?
I didn't realize I was just sick. I didn't realize that those things made me sick. I was sick enough that I didn't realize I was sick.
But those things were in your mind when you shot him?
No.
All right. Well, let's get to the few days leading up. All right. A few days before you purchased that .357 handgun, you transferred $9,900 to Brazil.
Objection, that's not the evidence.
Is that the right number?
It was the same day.
Okay, the same day?
The same day you shot and killed Carl Hoerig, you transferred $9,900 to Brazil?
No.
You said same day you purchased the handgun.
No, I said that let me rephrase this.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase
In
this.
the end, it's up to the jury to determine what the testimony was. But go ahead and ask your question.
A few days before you bought the .357 on March 10th, may have been March 7th, 8th, 9th, I don't know, you transferred $9,900 to Brazil. Is that correct?
I bought the gun.
Yes or no?
No, that's not correct.
Okay. Did you transfer $9,900 to Brazil before you killed Carl Hoerig?
Yes.
Okay. On March 10th, that Saturday, 2 days before you shot Carl Hoerig, you went to Slugmasters and bought a .357 handgun, correct?
On Friday. Friday.
Well, March 10th.
Was it Friday? What?
Well, I'm not going to get into an argument about whether it was Friday or Saturday. March 10th was, according to my calendar, a Saturday. If you want to call it as Friday, that's fine. But on March 10th, which was 2 days before you shot him, you bought a .357.
I'm not sure if it was the 10th or the 9th. Yes, I did buy it before I shot him, of course.
Well, may I approach the witness and refresh her memory with the purchase that she made?
May?
Thank you. I'm going to show you what's been marked for purposes of identification as State's Exhibit number 81, which is a certified copy of the transaction for a Smith & Wesson Model 60, serial number CJT0901, .357 revolver, and ask if you see the date that you signed and purchased at the top there.
And that was the 10th, and the 10th was Saturday.
All right, so we squared that out. Thank you.
Yes, it was Saturday, the 10th.
All right. So on Saturday, March 10th, 2007, 2 days before you shot him, you bought a .357.
I bought a gun. I don't know if it was .357. I don't understand about guns.
All right. 2 days before you shot him, you had a handbook on how to shoot that gun, correct? Or shoot guns.
I think that book came with a gun.
Right. But you got one. You had one.
There was a manual with a gun.
Mr. Martin said you showed up with that manual and took notes as he
I
explained.
don't know what he said. I'm saying that that book came with a gun.
All right. You told Mr. Martin that you wanted a gun for self-defense. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because your husband was gone a lot, correct?
Yes.
But that was a lie.
Yes.
Your husband had guns in the house that he had taken from you because you had tried to kill yourself, allegedly, correct?
Yes.
All right. And now you had even fired some of those guns with your husband, correct?
Yes.
All right. So 2 days before you shot Carl Hoerig, you also paid $227.52 for a laser, correct?
Yes.
And at the same time, you told this jury yesterday that you were running out of money. You had no money, right?
I didn't say that.
Oh, you didn't say that? Okay.
I was running out of money.
All right. 2 days before you shot him, you had Brian Martin take those factory grips off and put that laser sight on there that you paid $227 for, correct?
I don't know the name of the salesperson, but somebody did that for me in the gun shop.
All right. And 2 days before you shot him, you bought ammunition for the .357, and you bought .38 ammunition to practice with, correct?
I don't remember what I bought, but I bought ammunition on Saturday.
And 2 days before you shot him, later on after you bought that .357, you went to the gun range and practiced using that gun.
Yes, I did.
And 2 days before you shot Carl Hoerig, Mr. Slider was in there, and he set you up in that room where he showed you could move the targets back and forth?
Don't remember that part, but I was there.
Okay. 2 days before you shot him, you actually practiced with that gun for about an hour, correct?
Correct.
And you told this detective on the tape that you got pretty good at it, right?
Yes.
All right. And it wasn't really that difficult, was it?
No.
All right. And 2 days before you shot Carl, you attempted to buy a .45 caliber from that gun range.
No, he was pushing me to buy it.
And you, the worldly woman who's lived in New York with the accounting degree and has gone to Hofstra and has been married and divorced and lived on your own for 5 years, didn't know how to say no to him, so you just left.
No, I didn't. I gave him a card that I knew didn't have enough limit.
Oh, that's right. You couldn't just say no.
Exactly.
All right. Now, you claimed you wanted a gun, and this is 2 days before you shot Carl. You claimed you wanted a gun with ammunition with stopping power, right?
I said that I want a gun that just want a gun, and I asked about a question about ammunition that would explode inside the brain that would make sure that the person would die.
All right. And you also then went and bought ammunition 2 days before you shot Carl Hoerig at Gander Mountain, correct?
I don't know what Gander Mountain is. Is that the name of a store?
Yes, you went to another store and bought ammunition?
I went to a different store and bought ammunition, yes.
All right. And you agree with me that you can put a gun in your mouth, bite it with your teeth, and pull the trigger. You can kill yourself that way.
I don't know what is the right spot to do that. I don't know if you put a gun to your head, you put this angle. I don't know the right angle, but I know that if you explode a head in the center, definitely it's gonna work.
Okay.
But
all right. Well,
I don't know anatomy that well to know the right angle of a gun to your
you made
mouth.
that pretty clear yesterday. All right. And so now your plan, at least according to your testimony and your statement, is you're going to kill yourself, right?
That's right.
All right. So you have the gun, you have the ammunition on Saturday night, March 10th. You don't kill yourself on Saturday night, March 10th, correct?
No, I didn't.
You don't kill yourself on Sunday, March 11th, correct?
Correct.
All right. You didn't kill yourself Sunday after you made the little wooden contraption that had the hole that you dug out, right?
Correct.
Now, let's talk about the previous suicide attempts. Let's talk about March 12th first. So now it's March 12th, and Carl comes home, and he's already told you 2 previous times in this relationship that he doesn't want a child, correct?
He doesn't know what? A child, yes.
Okay. But you're going to try one more time to convince him to have a child, right?
No, I was pregnant, didn't have to convince him. I wanted to convince him that I want to carry that pregnancy to term.
And if he says no, you're going to kill yourself.
If he said no, I was going to kill myself.
All right. And he said no quite a few times before he even got in the shower, correct?
He did.
Yeah. And he was in, according to your testimony, in the shower for 1 hour, right?
Yeah.
You didn't kill yourself in the 1 hour after he told you he didn't want any more kids?
No.
No. And in fact, before he went into the bathroom, he told you that his daughter was pregnant and he was going to raise that child, correct?
Correct.
And you said on that very witness stand yesterday that you were betrayed. You felt betrayal.
Yeah.
You were betrayed.
Oh, yeah.
And now you know Carl doesn't want a child. Your claimed plan of killing yourself, if he won't help you raise this child, is to kill yourself.
Yeah.
You didn't have the gun in your hand when you talked to him the first time, correct?
No.
So you go and get the gun, and you do not kill yourself, correct?
Correct.
And after an hour in the bathroom or so, he comes out, and you begin the conversation again about the pregnancy, correct?
Yeah, I wanted to talk more.
And he told you again, I don't want a child.
No, I didn't see that. He said he was done talking.
Okay, so he said he was done talking to you.
Yeah.
All right. And you didn't want the baby either, did you?
Oh, I did.
You did.
Yeah.
So after he told you that you didn't want a baby and took this hour shower, you wanted a baby so bad that you drank a fifth or so or half of that rum bottle. Right?
Yeah.
Well, does that sound like something that's good for a pregnant woman?
You don't think...
Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, it's not good for
Okay. Now you're feeling betrayed. He's told you twice now he doesn't want the baby. He gets out of the shower and you're going to commit suicide, right?
I was trying to get his attention.
You weren't going to kill yourself though, right?
That was plan B. My plan A is for us to work out things between us.
So we're still on plan A at that point, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So he comes out and tells you again, you said he grabbed you and pushed you down, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you'd agree, like I asked you earlier, there's no way that Carl Hoerig can dispute or admit or even deny that he did that day, correct?
Correct.
The only witness and the only person who can tell us that, what happened in that house on March 12th, is you.
Correct.
All right. Now, you kept trying to talk him into the baby even after he pushed you down, correct?
I didn't talk about baby anymore. I just asked for us to talk more. He said he was done talking.
And he turned around and walked away.
Yeah, he turned around. He didn't want to talk to me anymore. And
Yes
he
or
made
no?
a
These are
statement.
very easy questions. Did he turn around and walk away from you?
He did.
All right. And at that point, did he say to you, now let's go back a minute here. Prior to that, you told him you were trying to keep the baby. You told him you'd take care of it, correct?
Yeah.
All right. You told him that, you told this jury yesterday that you already had a boyfriend on Match.com, correct, that Bruce? Mm-hmm. You still had your condo in New York, correct? Mm-hmm. You had already talked about getting a job back in New York with your old accounting firm, correct?
Yes.
And that would be with, I believe, Mr. Andy Wilder?
Yes, he was one of my options.
Right. And he was also another boyfriend you had, correct?
Never.
Never?
No.
Would you like to see this?
Yes.
Yeah, there were some emails between you, correct?
Yeah.
There were?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some kind of leading on like you
Yeah,
should
you know, men and women, they can flirt, but I never had anything with him. And I have no reason to hide that.
Right. So he indicated to you...
Is that a crime?
I asked the questions here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you flirt with Andy Wilder?
Over the emails, I may have done that. I don't remember yes or no. I cannot say yes or no. We did flirt.
Okay. And he was married?
Yes.
And you're married?
Or just the words.
Yes or no?
Yes.
All right.
Relevance.
All right. So you have the boyfriend Bruce on Match.com. You're flirting with Andy Wilder. you have the job in New York, you have your condo in New York, you're going to keep the baby, but you want this jury to believe that plan B is suicide. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, before you shot Carl Hoerig, you claim that he said, go to the basement so you don't get blood on his paintings, correct?
Yes.
All right. And again, Carl Hoerig cannot admit that, deny that, or explain that because of what you did to him, correct?
Yes.
All right. You could have left the house, correct?
If I could have. Yeah.
Yeah. You had a condo in New York, right?
I think you missed the point.
Do you have a condo in New York that you can go
Yes.
to? Yes. Okay. Did you know at this point that Carl's loaded up his car and he's ready to move out?
No.
No, you didn't know that. But he's leaving the house.
I'm going to object, Your Honor.
I don't know. Well, we're not.
Sustain that, I don't know, we have enough foundation for that.
Okay. Carl's walking away from you. He's done talking.
He's done talking.
All right. And you shot Carl Hoerig a few days after you transferred $9,900 to Brazil, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hoerig with the same gun that you bought 2 days earlier at Slugmasters, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hoerig with the same gun that you paid $227.52 for a light laser sight 2 days before, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hoerig with the same gun that you had Brian Martin put that laser sight on when you bought it, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hoerig with the same gun that you practiced with for about an hour 2 days earlier, correct?
Yes.
You shot Carl Hoerig 2 days after now what we hear is the first time just a salesman trying to get you to buy a bigger gun. You had no intent of buying that one, though, right?
No.
Okay. You shot and killed Carl Hoerig by putting not one, not two, but 3 shots into his body, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you executed him by walking down those 10 steps.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
All right. You shot him. And despite the fact that you said earlier you're not a doctor or a forensic pathologist, you claim the first shot killed him, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yet that house has 10 steps from the second floor to where his body was. Is that correct?
I believe your words.
All right. You walked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps down to where his body was, and you put the gun 12 to 24 inches from his head and pulled the trigger, correct?
Probably.
Probably? Well, did somebody else break into the house and shoot him too?
Objection.
Let's proceed, though.
That's the testimony from the
I'm
forensic.
saying that I remember very clearly
I'm not
the first
asking you-
shot.
hold
After
on.
that,
I'm
it's
asking-
fuzzy. It's
There's no question.
Ms. Hoerig, wait till he asks the question. And then
There's no question. And you stated, after you did that, after you walked down those 10 steps, after you bought that gun 2 days earlier, practiced with it, had a laser sight put on it, after you walked 10 steps down that to where his body was, that you claim was dead, you put a gun 12 to 24 inches from him, and then when you came back in January of last year, you told this detective, you know you're going to be convicted. Is that correct?
yeah, because it's
Yeah,
not a
yes
fair
or no?
court. Yes.
Yes. And you told
There are no
this...
Brazilians here. You see no Brazilians here, so of course I'm going to be.
Am I asking you about Brazilians?
I'm sorry?
Did I ask you about any Brazilians?
No.
Let's slow down.
Okay.
Ask a question, answer a question.
And you told this detective on the part of the recorded conversation that we played the other day in court that you expect to do 18 to 30 years in prison.
Never said
That's
that.
not what she stated.
It's up to the jury to determine what was stated in those prior.
And you stated in that recorded conversation that you wanted to do your time in a Brazilian prison to be close to your husband, correct?
No, that's not what I said. I said if
You're-
I got convicted, if I got.
Let your attorney ask the question.
Redirect?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Hoerig, Claudia, you have watched the video of your interview a few times, correct?
No.
Okay. You've watched the last part of the video of your interview.
Yes.
How did you come to state that the penalty for murder in Brazil was 18 to 30 years?
Mr. Nucci asked me how many years that kind of charge prescribed. And I said that kind of charge with aggravated and aggravated, whatever you say that terminology, it's 18 to 30 years.
Okay. You never stated you were willing to do 30 years in prison.
Objection.
No.
It's leading, for one thing.
Leading, better rephrase it.
Did you ever tell the detective how long you'd be willing to do in prison?
No, I never did.
Now, did you tell the detective that you knew you would be convicted?
No, I never did.
Okay, you didn't in that?
Oh, okay. I said that I was sure that I was going to be convicted here, but in Brazil would be a fair trial, and there I don't know if I would or not.
I didn't ask you. I asked you if you would. You told him you thought you would be convicted.
Here? Yeah, because it's not a fair court.
Stop right there. Now, did you tell the detective what happened on March 12th?
Yes, I did.
And did you tell him that you shot and killed your husband?
I did.
And you expected to be convicted of that?
No, I didn't expect it. I said that given the lies, I would be convicted.
Okay. Now, at the beginning of this testimony, in response to the state's question, you started talking about recordings that were on your computer, correct?
Correct.
Did you make recordings of your daily life?
Yes, I did.
And how did you make those?
I carry a tape recorder on my waist 24 hours a day.
And where did you save those recordings?
On my computer, my PC, that's in Trumbull County Jail.
Okay. And why did you make those recordings?
Because I have OCD and I had a very bad first marriage with Thomas Bolte, and he put me through hell, made me think that things that he said, he didn't say, so I developed the habit of recording myself to see if I was crazy or not, because he always denied the things that he said. So I developed a syndrome, mania, what's the word? I became obsessed with recording things to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Okay. And do you know where your computer is today?
I believe it's at the Trumbull County Jail.
Okay. Now, when you talked about all of the things that happened between you and Carl's marriage, why did you do that?
If I didn't understand the question.
Why did you talk about all of the things, bad and good, that happened during your marriage to Carl?
Because if you're gonna, if somebody wants to know things and they ask you a story, I don't feel I'm not capable of telling part of the story. I have OCD. I have to start from the beginning so I get to the points that I can answer that question. It's part of my disability. I don't know how to jump phases. So to ask my question that is in the middle, I have to go to the beginning so I can organize my thoughts.
Okay. Well, let's go through and talk about some things we're asked of you. The state asked if you were upset about the engagement party, correct?
Yes. You mean today?
Yes, just right now.
Okay, yes.
He asked you, Mr. Becker said, were you upset about the engagement party? He asked you, correct?
Let me try to, when he asked if I was upset, if I ever were upset, or if I was upset
Let's answer my question first. He asked you whether or not you were upset about the
He
engagement.
did ask that, yes.
And he asked you if you were upset about it before you shot Mr. Hoerig.
No, not at that day, no.
Okay. Well, let's break it down. Were you upset with Carl about the engagement party on the day you shot him?
I overcame that. At one point, yes.
Yes.
Step
Let's go back there. Let's answer the question. On March 12th, when you shot Carl, were you mad about the engagement party?
No, that had left my mind.
Okay. At some point, were you upset about the engagement party?
I was upset when it happened.
Okay. And when we use the word upset, were you mad? How did you feel?
Resentful? No, I wasn't resentful.
Okay.
But it did pile up in my mind and I didn't realize it. It was still doing damage psychologically. I wasn't noticing it.
Okay. Now, Mr. Becker asked you on direct if you were upset about the fact you married Carl after 50 days. On the day you shot Carl, correct?
I overcame that at some point and I wasn't dwelling on that anymore.
Okay. So on March 12th, when you shot Carl, you were not upset about the fact you guys only knew each other 50 days before you got married?
No, because I had so many other issues. I wouldn't even remember that issue that happened 2 years before. No, it was no longer an issue in my mind.
Okay. Now, the state asked you a whole series of those questions, correct? Were you upset about any of those things at the time you shot Carl Hoerig?
No, I was not even that upset. I was upset at two things. One, he said he was going to adopt his grandchild, and he wanted me to get rid of my child. And then I was upset when he told me to go kill myself in the basement.
Well, let's go back and talk about March 12th. So you had two plans on March 12th, Plan A and Plan B.
Yeah.
Okay. And Plan A was to persuade him to come back to the marriage and have the child.
I wanted to fix the damage that I had done that month that I asked him to go date other women, and I told him I was dating somebody else, and that I wanted a divorce.
And that's what you really wanted to happen.
I wanted the divorce very bad, but then I changed my mind on the 9th when I found out I was pregnant.
Okay. On March 12th, you had Plan A and Plan B, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Plan A was fix the marriage and have the baby.
That's correct.
That's what you wanted to happen.
That's what I wanted, yes.
And were you fighting for that to happen?
I was fighting very hard. I wrote a letter to him and to his friends to see if his friends would advise him to work on his marriage.
Okay. And Plan B was to kill yourself.
Yeah, if he absolutely said, no way, I don't want to fix the marriage. I felt I couldn't raise a child by myself, so I would rather die.
And was your intent to kill yourself right after he said no the first time?
Was my intention absolutely to kill myself on the 12th.
Okay. But was your intent to just take no for an answer once from him?
No, I was going to fight for it.
Okay. And when he came out of the bedroom and you had the gun to your head, what were you doing?
I was trying to get his attention.
Okay. Were you fighting for Plan A?
Plan A.
Okay. And on your recorded statement we watched, you stated he'd still be alive if he didn't say those things, right?
That's correct.
And what things did he say?
He said, that's a good idea, but wait for me to leave the house and go and kill yourself in the basement so you don't get blood in my paintings.
And that's what triggered you to stand up and shoot him?
Yes, I got very, very, very angry when he said that.
Now, in terms of the actual shooting, you remember firing the first shot?
I remember that clearly.
Okay. And what do you clearly remember about firing the first shot?
I do.
Huh?
Well,
What do you remember about firing the first shot?
Oh, I remember that when he started going down the steps, I got up really fast and I positioned myself right behind him going down the steps.
Okay. And you shot him?
I shot him.
And do you remember what happened to him?
I do.
And what was that?
He was in the middle of the stairs. I say third, but could be fourth or fifth step, and then he had his right foot still up in the air, and I guess when I shot him, his leg went like soft, and his right foot was up in the air, and it kind of went this way, and he lost his right shoe right there, and his body went straight down, boom, on the floor like this, straight down.
And did he say anything or make any noise?
No noise, absolutely. He didn't, like the noise when you wounded, you say, there was no noise out of him. That's why I say he died from instantly. He didn't even know, didn't even feel anything, because there was no sound at all from him. His mouth, no sound.
Now, you stated previously you thought you fired 2 other shots, correct?
I heard it's recorded in my mind the sound of 3 shots.
Okay.
It's recorded. I don't remember me doing things after the first shot, but my brain recorded the sound of 3 shots.
Okay. So you don't specifically remember firing the shots after the first shot?
It's not clear in my mind what I did after that, but I want to say I cannot see myself standing on top of those stairs and keep shooting. I can more see myself going down the stairs and shooting. I cannot imagine that I would just sit there coldly and boom, boom. I cannot see that happening. It's not like...
Now,
It's not like logical to me.
okay. Now, before you were brought back to the United States, you had read articles about what happened, correct?
I didn't read much. The only thing, because I couldn't read, made me feel sick.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that somebody made me printed and made me read. I read something about 5 shots, and I said they are wrong.
Way beyond what the recross or what the cross was. I never mentioned anything about newspaper articles.
Let's get back on track.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hoerig, you never denied shooting Carl, correct?
No, I never did.
Just 1 second. No, that's all we have.
Becky, anything else?
I have a few questions. You don't have a recording of the events of March 12th, 2007, do you?
I did have.
Where is it?
It's in Brazil. Went with me.
And you never bothered to have in the year you've been here, in the 11 years, had it sent up here or brought up to Ohio? It's not
How
here,
would I
right?
do that?
So in the little shack you live in is where this recording is.
It was erased, but I'm sure the technology could bring it back because the recorder still exists. And I'm sure technology can bring it back.
But you and your attorneys never brought that up here.
We never discussed that because my public attorneys, they abandoned me for the longest time.
Okay.
Now they
We know, the system's corrupt, everyone's here's liars, we got it.
That's exactly
We
true.
got it, okay. Except for you, you're not a liar.
No, I'm not.
All right, you may step down. Any further witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Counsel approach for scheduling purposes.
Judge, do you want to?
Ladies and gentlemen, the balance of this trial, I have to deal with some things regarding counsel, regarding the close of the defense case, and we'll do that outside your presence. The balance then is the closing arguments of counsel when charged by the court. It's our intention now to give the closing arguments today, bring you back in the morning, give you the instructions of law, and send you out to deliberate. So we'll take 15 minutes, do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else, do not form